Today we'll be discussing about the topic process models. So what is process models? So basically when you deal with a model, you look into what the product or the system is. It's very important to go through a series of steps, designing a roadmap that helps you to create a timely, high quality result. And this roadmap is alone called a software process. So who deals with this software process? The software engineers and their managers adapt the process to their needs and then follow it. In addition, the people who have requested the software have also a role in helping and configuring the designs of the software and also debugging and testing how the software should proceed. So what makes the software models much important? The importance lies between its stability, control, and organization to an activity that can, if left uncontrolled, become quite chaotic. Modern software engineering must be agile. It must, as I said in the previous activities also, it must be user friendly. So it must demand only those activities, controls, and work products that are appropriate for the project team. So what are the steps that are included in making such kind of process models? The process that should be adopted depends on from software to software that one is building. One process might be appropriate for creating software which will be based on aircraft avionics system, while another can be of different process, maybe for the creation of a website. So it basically differs from one software to other software. So what is the work product? So after all, what is the product that the user or the one who is using it gets? From the point of a software engineer, the work products are the programs, documents, data that are produced as a consequence of activities and the tasks defined by the process. Generic process model. So basically from the diagram you can see there's a hierarchy of activities that are included in the software process, starting from the software process framework, umbrella activities, and there are two of the activities which can be endless to number 1 to number n. There are task sets, and in the task sets there are sub points which are work task, work products, quality assurance points, and project maintenance which should be included. So this is basically a software process framework. So framework activity is populated by a set of software engineering actions. Generic process framework for software engineering should be around all these five framework activities. That is, first being the communication, second the planning, third modeling, fourth construction, and the fifth deployment. In addition, a set of umbrella activities are project tracking and control, risk management, quality assurance, configuration management, technical reviews, and others are also applied throughout the process in order to make the project much more smooth and conveyable. So let us now see how does one define a framework activity. A software team would need significantly more information before it could properly execute any one of the five activities which we discussed earlier. For a, for a small software project requested with simple and straightforward requirements, the communication activity might encompass little more than a phone call with appropriate stakeholder. The main we'll focus on the main points. Make contact with stakeholder via telephone. These all are the steps we need to take One by one it's displayed. Make contact with the stakeholder via telephone. Discuss requirements and take notes. Organize the notes into a brief written statement of requirements, that is, make shorthand notes. Email to stakeholder for review and approval. If the project was considerably more complex with many stakeholders, each with a different set of requirements, then the community or the communication activity might have six distinct actions. That is the inception, elicitation, elaboration, negotiation, specification and validation. Well, you don't have to remember these points. The main points are the five activities, that is the communication, planning, modeling, construction and the deployment. All these sub points come under these points. Each of the software engineering action would have many tasks in number of distinct work products. On identifying a task set. Each software engineering action can be represented by a number of different task sets, and each being the collection of software engineering work tasks, related work products, quality assurance points, and project milestones. You should choose a task set that best accommodates the needs of the project and the characteristics of your team. So basically this points tells you that you should set the task set so that every team member of yours performs the best of the project and makes the task into a complete perfectness. A process pattern describes a process-related problem that inquired during software engineering, identifies the environment in which the problem has been encountered. Stated in more general terms, a process pattern provides you with a template. So what is a pattern name? Pattern name can be classified into three types: stage pattern, which defines the problem associated with a framework activity for the process; task pattern defines a problem associated with the software engineering action or work task and relevant to successful software engineering practice; and the third and the last one, phase pattern, which defines the sequence of framework activities that occurs within the process even when the overflow of activities is iterative, that is, which will be keep repeating itself in nature. Let's see the one of the problem. The specific problem to be solved by the pattern is describe the conditions under which the pattern applies. So the solution, the resulting context or the conditions that should be applied depends on how the problem has been implemented upon us. Suppose there can be a list of all process patterns that should be directly related to the problem, and the known uses and the examples should also be indicated with the specific instances in which the pattern will be applicable. Now we'll be looking on to the prescriptive process models. Prescriptive process models define a prescribed set of process elements and predictable process workflow. All software process models can accommodate these generic framework activities, but each applies a different emphasis to these activities, which thoroughly defines a process flow that invokes each framework activities in a different manner. So under these prescriptive process models, we have some models, and one of those are the waterfall models. There are times when the requirements for a problem are well understood, but when work flows from communication to deployment, that is from the first basic standard to the last of the basic standard, in a reasonable linear fashion, then sometimes it's also called classic life cycle because it often follows a chain of cycle, that is from communication to deployment it follows a series of steps, thus suggests a systematic sequential approach to software development that begins with customers specification of the requirements, progresses to planning, and then goes to the modeling, then construction, then finally reaching the deployment, that is the delivery support feedback to the user. The second being the incremental process models. The incremental model delivers a series of releases called increments that provide progressively more functionality for the customer as each increment is delivered. There are many situations in which initial software requirements are reasonably well defined, but the overall scope of development effort precludes a purely linear process. In addition, there may be a compelling need to provide a limited set of software functionality to users quickly and then refine and expand on that functionality in a later software releases. In such cases, you can choose a process model that is designed to produce a software in increments. So what is basically about this incremental process models are each of these linear sequences will provide you with increments of the software in a manner that it is similar to increments produced by an evolutionary process flow. So what basically it means is that after the first increment, the basic requirements are addressed, but many supplementary features remain undelivered. So the core product is used by the customer itself. As a result of use and of evaluation of the product, a plan is developed for the next kind of increment, basing on what the information has been got by the customer after the first increment. This process is repeated following the delivery of each increment until the complete product is produced. Incremental development is particularly useful when staffing is unavailable for a complete implementation by business deadline that has been established for a project. So basically, this kind of process model is very much of beneficial when staffing is unavailable, and also when the business deadline that has been established for a project is should be has to be completed. So this is the basic graph which has in the x-axis project calendar time and in the y-axis software functionality and features. So these are the sequences: increment 1, increment 2, and the increment till so on n. The factors that are kept in mind should be of the communication, planning, modeling, construction, deployment. The third being the evolutionary process models. Evolutionary process models are increasingly more complete version of a software with each iteration or a loop. Software, such as any of the complex systems, always evolves over a period of time. Business and product requirements often change as development proceeds, making a straight line path to an end product unrealistic. Evolutionary models are iterative. They are characterized in a manner that enables you to develop increasingly more complete version of software. So let's see what's basically about evolutionary process. This is an introduction to evolutionary process. What basically happens in an evolutionary process model is a customer defines a set of general objectives for software. So previously itself a customer has a set of ideas that a model should be of this form. So a customer already defines a set of general objectives for software, but does not identify detailed requirements for functions and features. And in this other case, the developer may also be unsure of the efficiency of algorithm, the adaptability of an operating system, or even the form that human machine interaction should be. In such situations, a prototyping paradigm may offer the best approach. Regardless of the manner in which it is applied, a prototyping paradigm assists you and other stakeholders to better understand what is to be built when requirements are fuzzy. So in this type of models, the main hand is with the prototyping paradigm, where even when the developer and the customer have some kind of inefficiency, then at such type prototype paradigm begins with its communication. You can meet with other stakeholders to well define the overall objective of the software, identify whatever requirements are known, and also outline areas where further definition is very much of importance. The prototype is deployed and evaluated by stakeholders who provide feedback that is used to further refine requirements. So as in the previous model, as we have seen, it also takes feedback from the user and also works on the further refinement of requirements. So this is a diagram. Prototyping can be problematic for the following reasons also. One, stakeholders see what appears to be a working version of software, unaware that there is pending work. As a software engineer, you often make implementation compromises in order to get a prototype working quickly. So these are the problems you face while you are dealing with prototyping paradigm. This is the fourth type of model, process model, that is the spiral model. So it's basically proposed by Barry Boehm, and it deals with the iterative nature of prototyping with the controlled and systematic aspect of the waterfall model. So basically this is an upgraded version of waterfall model, the first model we discussed in the class today. And in this, one is a cyclic approach for incremental growing a system's degree of definition and also the implementation while decreasing its degree of risk. The other is a set of anchor point milestones for ensuring stakeholder commitment to feasible and mutually satisfactory system solutions. And by using this type of spiral model, software has been developed in a series of evolutionary releases. During early iterations only, the release might be of a model or a prototype. So this is a graph indicating how a typical spiral model looks like. As you can see in the graph, there is a sequence of spirals that has been formed from the starting point to number 1, number 2 until number n, including all the 5 factors in mind, that is the communication, planning, modeling, construction and deployment. So continuation, as this evolutionary process begins, the software team performs activities that are implied by circuit around a spiral in clockwise direction. That is, from the previous slide you can see it can be seen in a clockwise direction, starting in a clockwise direction. Anchor point milestones, a combination of work, products and conditions that are attained along the path of spiral, are noted for each evolutionary pass. The first circuit around the spiral might result in the development of a product specification. Then, progressively more sophistication version of the software will be upgraded. Each pass through the planning region results in adjustment to the project plan. Cost and schedule are adjusted based on the feedback derived from the customer after delivery. The spiral model is realistically approach the development of large scale system and software. So these kind of models are very much beneficial when it's required for large scale systems and also for much upgraded kind of software, because such software evolves as a process progresses. The developer and also the customer better understand and react to risk at each evolutionary level. So now moving on, specialized process models. What are specialized process models? So basically these all are the introductions that it tends to apply to when a specialized or narrowly defined software approach is chosen. So basically the component based development model incorporates many of the characteristics of the spiral model. So what does it mean is that the spiral model, the component based development model has many of the characteristics of that of the spiral model, which is it is evolutionary in nature as the spiral model. It's also demanding an iterative approach to the creation of software. By the term iterative approach, it means that it always asks its customer for the approach towards the software and also upgrading the software ahead. Modeling and constructions activities begin with the identification of candidates components. So basically there are 5 points you need to remember. The component based development model incorporates these following steps. The first being available component based products are researched and evaluated for the application domain in question. Second, component integration issues are considered. Third, a software architecture is designed to accommodate the components. Fourth, components are integrated into the architecture, which is the same as the second one. And the fifth one being the comprehensive testing is conducted to ensure proper functionality. The fifth one is the main uh, point that has to be focused. Comprehensive testing is conducted to ensure proper functionality. Also, component-based development model leads to software reuse and reusability, provides software engineers with a number of measurable benefits. So the advantages when asked about component-based development model is it's reusable, and it also provides the software engineers reusability so that they can remake, and they can see in a sequence of steps what all can be upgraded in a better fashion. So finally, this is the formal methods model. The formal methods model encompasses a set of activities that leads to formal mathematical specification of a computer software. So this enables you to specify, develop and verify a computer-based system by applying a rigorous mathematical notation. So this is the type of model which includes mathematical calculation and notation into use. Such type of approach, called clean room software engineering, is currently applied by some software development organizations. When formal methods are used during design, they serve on the basis for programs verification and also therefore enables you to discover correct errors that might otherwise go undetected. So this always helps you to find out errors and also enables you to discover which often gets undetected. The development of formal models is currently quite time consuming and expensive. So the development of such kind of formal models is currently quite time consuming and expensive. So this is one of the disadvantages of such kind of formal methods model, and also the necessary background apply formal methods extensive training is also required. It is difficult to use the model as a communication mechanism for technically unsophisticated customers. So this is the aspect oriented software development. Regardless of what all software processes that has been chosen by you, the builders of complex software invariably implement a set of localized features, that is pre-data or the ones which are already stored in every software has been already set by the complex software users, and such data or functions are always information content. These localized software characteristics are modeled as components such as object-oriented classes and also then constructed within the context of system architecture. When concerns cut across multiple system functions, features, and information, they are often referred to as cross-cutting concerns. Aspectual requirements define those cross-cutting concerns that have been impact across the software architecture. So relatively, it's a new type of software engineering paradigm that provides you with basically a process and a methods type of approach, that is defining it, specifying it, designing and constructing the aspects. So it uses a concept of horizontal slices through vertically decomposed software components which are called aspects, so that it can characterize cross-cutting functional and non-functional properties of components. Common systematic aspects include user interface, collaborative work, distribution, persistency, memory management, transaction processing, security and integrity, and so on. So the unified process. Unified process is an attempt to draw on the best of the best features so that the traditional software process models try to implement many of the best principles of agile software development. The uniform process recognizes the importance of customer communication and also streamlines the method for describing the best of the customer's view into point. It emphasizes the importance of the role of software architecture, also redirecting the architecture's focus on the right goals such as the understandability, reliance to future changes and to the reusability. So there are phases of the unified process. The unified process is the five basic framework activities depicted in the figure I'll show ahead. It depicts the phases of a UP, that is, which has been discussed already: communication, planning, modeling, construction and deployment, and also the transition, constructions, elaboration and inception and production. So this is a diagram which you should be practicing. Also make a short note on this. Personal and team process models. If a software process has been developed at a cooperative or a organization level, it can be effective only if it is agreeable to significant adaptation to meet the needs of the project team. What is doing the software engineering work. In an ideal setting, you would create a process that best suits and fits your needs and at the same time meet all the broader needs of the team along with the organization. Alternatively, the team itself can create its own process at the same time meeting the narrower needs of individuals or the customers and the broader needs of the organization. So this is about the personal software process. That is, it includes planning, high-level design review, development, post-mortem. So these are the five framework model of the PSP, that is the personal software process, which every developer user has to keep in mind. PSP emphasizes the need to record and analyze the type of errors you make so that you can develop strategies to eliminate them. So team software process, often called the TSP, is basically focuses on showing the managers and how to coach and motivate the teams on how to help them to sustain peak performance, accelerate software process improvement by making CMM level 5 and behavior normal and also expected by the customer, provide improvement guidance, facilitate university teaching, and self-directed team has a consistent of understanding over goals and objectives. So basically this slide always tells how a team should be working and what all it should be keeping in its mind while designing a program or a project as a team whole. Process technology. The process technology tools allow a software organization to build automated model of a process framework, task set and umbrella activities. So the tools which are required for such of the activities for framework, task set and also umbrella activities are called the process technology tools. Once an acceptable process has been created, other process technology tools can be used to allocate, monitor, and even control all software engineering activities by the use of these tools. The process technology tool can also be used to coordinate the use of other software engineering tools that are appropriate for a particular work task. Product and process. If the process is weak, the end product will undoubtedly will not work. All of human activity may be a process, but the outcome of the process should be an product which is useful. Software is more than just a program code. And software engineering is an engineering branch associated with such type of development of software product. That's all what is there, much importance in the slide. Yes, so this is basically the diagram you should keep in mind. The updates, requirements, the system analysis, system design, code design, testing, deployment and maintenance all should be done while making a software project. Finally, the people who gather the requirements, who interview users, who design software, who write software for people. So if there are no people, then there's no software, in short. Process is how we go from the beginning to the end of the project, starting from the people, ending at the people. Many project managers, however, do not choose a process based on the people, and that's the main reason they find it very difficult. They simply use the same process they have always used or misused. So, keeping this in mind, let's focus on the main two process, on the main 2 points. That is, first being the process improvement. The process improvement is at most required, and secondly, the use of the right process for the people and product at hand. The product is the result of a project. The desired product satisfies the customers and keeps them coming back for more and more. The product pays the bills and ultimately allows people to work together in a process and build software. This results this results in a poor product, no money, no business, and no more need for people and process. So that's it for the slide. The assignment will be uploaded very soon. Keep going through the slide and make short notes so that you can so that it benefits during the exams. So I'll be uploading an assignment soon. Stay tuned. Thank you.